Hey everyone, my name is Sam. I'm the founder and CEO of Writesonic. Really excited for this session today. I have with me Ross Simmonds, who is the founder of Foundation Marketing. We also have Dozie, who is from Foundation Marketing as well. And yeah, if you care at all about content or distribution, I'm pretty sure you probably know Ross from his LinkedIn posts or tweets. I think he also runs a podcast or something with HubSpot as well and has his own podcast. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you already know him. And what we'll be doing today is we'll talk about some data points first on what is working in AI search right now. We did like a couple of different studies just yesterday. So all of these are very fresh studies we did for this webinar. So we'll be going through those. Then Ross will be taking over. He'll be talking about all the things that are actually working in AI search right now in terms of content distribution, various other things. And then we'll do a fireside chat where we'll answer some of your questions, go through a few of the other common things in the space as well, and take it on from there. So let's get right into it. Now, here's the thing I keep seeing with almost every team that we talk to. AI search, of course, has blown up, especially in the last 6 months. Everyone now is using a GEO tool, AU tool, whatever you want to call it. You can see exactly where you are invisible, but you can't actually move the rankings or move the visibility there. Most of the teams are kind of stuck with that. What is the set of actions that you need to take to actually improve your visibility or citations? So instead of giving you my opinions today, we went and pulled some data, really fresh data. So there's about 7 studies we pulled just yesterday. I'll be going through each one of them really quickly, and all of them are pointing towards the same direction. And first of all, some quick context on where this data comes from. So I'm not making any claims. We have a data set, an always growing data set of about 2 billion AI conversations in our index. This includes multiple AI platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, Google AI Overviews, and so on. And this is where we, based on these different data points that we have as part of our data set, is where we ran these fresh studies, which will show some really interesting insights, hopefully. So the first study we did here was on the model change. I think most of you probably know. Last month in May, ChatGPT released 5.5 model, just 1 month after 5.4, I guess. I think 5.4 was released in April this year. And with that one update, how things work in terms of where ChatGPT fetches its information changed quite drastically. So the most interesting number here is the first one. 96% of ChatGPT's answers now point to other people's site as the source. So if you are a brand, you're tracking your visibility inside ChatGPT, 96% of those citations or sources are actually coming from third-party websites. Now, these third-party could be, other kind of forums, news websites, Reddit, all these kinds of things, but not necessarily your own website there. Apart from that, Reddit saw a huge jump, so a 4.4 times jump after that single May model update. So GPT 5.5 instant becoming the default model. And of course, the thinking model is 5.5 thinking. And the other thing is for your own site's share, that went down from 5.2% before the update to 4.3% after the update. So quite interesting how one model change, like any new model that gets released, actually has so much impact on what gets cited or where does that information get sourced from. Study number 2 that we did is on how these different engines overlap in terms of the sources that they're using. So we took about 160,000 prompts and we asked a really basic question. If I take the same prompt, how do the different engines cite the sources? Are they citing the same set of sources or the same set of websites, or is there any difference there? Interestingly, what we found is there's only a 17% source overlap between any two engines for the same set of prompts. So only 17% overlap, right? What that means is optimizing for one engine, let's say ChatGPT, does not mean that you're also optimized for some of these other ones, because the sources differ quite a bit on what any of these models is considering to come up with that answer. And only 3.5 3.8% of sources are used by every engine that we tested. So this is the common set of sources. And 72% of the sources show up on only one engine, right? Which is quite interesting. And this is where I think you can also see a differentiation between the different models here. So the things that you see here, we ran it on 4 models: AI Overviews, Perplexity, Gemini, and ChatGPT. Now, AI Overviews, Perplexity, and Gemini have good amount of overlap, but ChatGPT is sort of like the lone wolf, where if we see these 4 models, ChatGPT is playing in a different league compared to these. So between AI Overviews, Perplexity, and Gemini, there is a good amount of overlap, but ChatGPT pulls from its own set of sources, which are quite different from Google itself as well, even though it is using a combination of Google and Bing index there. Next thing I want to point out is the citation lifespan. So, any source, any website that gets cited doesn't last forever. It actually fades in a couple of days. This is one study I don't think I've seen being done anywhere else. So what we did is tracked 23 million cited sources over a 2-month period. So from April to June of this year. What we saw is that 44% of the cited pages appear only once, and then they sort of don't appear again, they disappear. And 11 to 15 days is the typical citation lifespan before it drops or it churns out of the sources list there. And interestingly, Perplexity keeps its sources twice as long as ChatGPT. So it's the highest retaining model in a way if we talk about. So what that means is basically once you are in the sources or once you are a citation, it does not mean that you'll stay there forever. The answers that it is pulling from these different sources keep on changing. So you need to make sure you are evolving and you're not also just relying on your own website. You're also taking into consideration third-party sources as well. Coming to third-party sources, so one other thing that we saw is that you can be the source, like you can be cited in the answer, but still your brand might not get mentioned or your product might not get mentioned as a recommendation in that answer. So very interesting data points here. So 5 models we tested on: Perplexity, AI Overviews, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot. And you can see that 52% of the brands, let's say, that Perplexity is using as a source don't even get mentioned as part of that answer there. So being cited does not necessarily mean that you'll also get recommended as part of that answer. The 5th study that we did here is another very interesting one. So AI answers have a fixed number of seats in the sense the slots they have as part of the answer where the products or services are being recommended. So 90% of the time, whenever a new product or a new brand enters an answer, another brand gets dropped from that answer. So it's not like it will get added to the same list. One of the brands from there will get dropped. And usually there's a 1-to-1 mapping where if one brand enters the answer, some other one gets kicked out. And 2.6 times, brands get dropped when like a newcomer arrives there. So let's say there are 5 brands that are getting mentioned right now. When a newcomer arrives, a new brand, which was not part of the answer before, there's a lot of drops that happen as part of that. So essentially, if you want to win, you need to take one of your competitor's seat. It's a replacement game, essentially. The other thing here, which I think Ross will talk about probably in a bit more detail, but we ran this study again on the citation influence. So how much influence does your own website versus some of these third-party websites have on the answer, like where it would pick the answer from those citation sources? So interestingly, some of these social ones, YouTube, Reddit, get picked up quite a bit. So it's like a 3.2x rate for YouTube and Reddit. Gartner is also up there for, I guess, B2B domains. G2 is 2.3 times, and then you have LinkedIn. Your own website is much lower as compared to these third-party sources. So what that means is like, ChatGPT or any of these models are trusting outside sources, like what others talk about your brand more than what you talk about yourself on your own website, which is where what is important is that, of course, you do your own on-page content, on-page SEO, GEO, but at the same time, you also need to ensure you have an off-page motion as well to make sure that you have a much higher chance of appearing in the answer and also staying there, as we discussed as well. The last bit here is, you can't own the first position for a longer period of time. There's usually 7 to 9 different brands that trade that first spot for the same prompt or the same question. So usually it keeps differing between these 7 to 9 brands. And 50% of ChatGPT's answers change their first, the first recommendation that they have from each run to, there's a lot of volatility there. So they keep changing the first brand that is recommended there. Right. So basically, you need to make sure that you are present in the top few results, let's say the top 3 or top 4. You can never be consistent in the first position. As long as you are in the top 3 or 4 positions, you have like a good spot that you can control, and you can also keep getting recommended over a period of time. Now, these 7 studies we did, but what is like the conclusion of these? Like, which are the brands that keep winning here? So there are really 2 common things. First signal is that other sites are getting cited, which are talking about your brand there, right? So there are other websites or other sources which are talking about you. This could be third-party websites like YouTube, Reddit, all these kinds of one. Or it could also be any other, maybe even competitor websites or listicle websites for that matter. Second is the number of times that you are being mentioned across the web, not just your own website, but outside as well. That matters quite a bit. So the more the number of mentions you have, mentions as in where other people's content has your brand name mentioned as part of it, that matters much more than even having backlinks, which used to work with SEO, but not that important nowadays. So the more the number of mentions you have, the amount of digital PR you're doing, Reddit mentions that you have, that has a very strong impact on having a long-term AI visibility for your brand. So in a nutshell, just giving a quick summary here, the very first thing is, stop treating one engine as visibility. See which is the AI engine that matters for your brand, or which are the set of engines that matter for your brand. There would be certain nuances and certain differences in how you optimize for each of those engines. Second thing is, being cited does not necessarily mean that you're also getting mentioned, right? So you need to take both of those into account. Citation share is, I would say, a secondary metric. The primary metric is still AI visibility or share of voice. Third thing is, stop pouring all of your time and resources into your own website. Of course, on page is important, but at the same time, make sure you're also having a certain percentage of your resources and your budget allocated to off-page activities as well. And then last one, as we discussed, stop trying to be the best. You can't always claim the first spot. If you're in those top 2 or 3 spots and the models are kind of rotating between that itself will have a good long-term visibility for you. You don't necessarily need to be in the first position. And then, we have Ross on the call. He's like the expert in distribution and content. He's the one who, I think, I didn't know this, but he's the one who coined the term create once, distribute forever. He has a whole book on this and also runs a very successful podcast. Also, you might have seen on some of the HubSpot videos as well. So he's like the authority in off-page in distribution content as well. So I'll be passing it over to Ross. Ross will let you present your screen and take it on from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. That was awesome. Love the insights. Love the stats that you shared there. Folks, definitely check out some of the content and the work that the Writesonic team has been producing. Data like this, just fresh off of yesterday, is absolutely wild, and I love to see it. So great work. Excited to dive in. So when it comes to content distribution and it comes to marketing in general, folks, we are all going through one of the most challenging but exciting times that I have seen in my entire life. Google has flat out become a destination. I've been in SEO for a very long time. I've been in search and discovery for a long time. And when I first got started in the industry, there's no question that Google was a place where it would just send us traffic. Today, it's no longer that. Today, it's taking citations. A lot of you will log into Google Search Console and you'll see a big gap happening between impressions and clicks. This is because Google has become become a destination. And across the board, when you look at marketers and we talk to marketers, a lot of us are struggling because we don't know where to go. We don't know what to do. We did this study at Foundation where we asked marketers, like, what roles do you think are most at risk? And content writers, email marketers, graphic designers, so many people were stressed out, right? Budgets are getting cut left, right, and center. You see layoffs happening at firms, at companies all the time. Budgets are going down, goals are going up. Everybody has these like Barbie goals with Ken budgets. It's absolute chaos out here. Then you see Sam's data, and you're seeing that the updates, like the ability to even own your visibility in one LLM is no longer connected to the next. Like, this stuff is changing so frequently. You can optimize for one platform, but it doesn't mean you're going to show up in another. You get cited one day and then you're gone the next, right? Like, you see this type of data. No wonder marketers are stressed out. There's no wonder we're all stressed out, wondering what in the world should we do? We have citations one day, we're popping the bubbly, we feel excited, we feel good, and then the next week, we're gone. Bye, Felicia. Like, what do we do? My goal today is to show you what you can do, how you can increase the likelihood that you influence the citations long-term, and how you can build engines that actually work. But before we go into the future and I show you that, let's first go back. Let's go back to 2017, 2018, 2019, when I was trying my hardest to tell so many marketers all over the world, folks, that you have to realize that this Google thing is becoming a destination. I was telling folks on stages year after year. I said, Google is becoming a destination. Google cares more about shareholder value than they care about your backlinks, your domain authority. All of that is secondary. And folks, you need to lean into distribution. And here we are, right? So when we're in this space today and we're thinking, man, I wish somebody told us about Reddit and Quora and LinkedIn and Medium and to be distributing. I tried, folks. I really did try, but let me try again. Let me try this time even harder to tell you what I think is going to happen. I want you to embrace the basics of marketing, because over the last few years, we've made a mistake. Content marketers threw the word content as like the only thing we did. Let's write more blog posts, create more landing pages. Let's forget about marketing. Let's forget about the psychology of humans. Let's forget about brand narrative. Let's forget about storytelling. Let's just optimize our stuff, right? We forgot all about the classics of psychology, of human connection. We forgot those things and leaned so aggressively into producing content that we lost track of what actually makes this craft cool, which is the human side. So let's go back to fundamentals like research, creation, distribution, and optimization. Most teams just focus on creation. Today, I want to share with you how this model can be applied to every single one of your businesses, your careers, your goals, your jobs, etc., so you can achieve the success in visibility the same way that Writesonic has been talking about in terms of AI, but you can also execute this with your teams no matter your budget. But I also want to take us back to fundamentals that some other folks have been preaching for way longer than me, which is that on-site, on your website, and off-site, you should be just doing good business stuff like embracing double EAT. Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Your brand needs to ooze this. If you do not ooze this, you will fail in AI visibility, you will fail in search, you will probably fail in business. You need to actually strive to demonstrate that you have experience, expertise, authority, and trust in your category. So what does that mean? It means you want to inspire firsthand opinions. You want video reviews. You want case studies on your site. You also want them off-site, right? Sam was talking about how rare it is that your websites are actually being cited in the LLMs, right? That makes sense, because our websites are small in the fraction when you consider how big the internet is. We are a small sliver, folks. So obviously, we're going to have a small piece of the influence in the sample size of these LLMs training models in their data. So what do? We should be trying to increase and grow the sample size of proof points on other sites that show we are trustworthy and valid so we can influence the LLMs. And you do this with experience, expertise, authority, and trust. By having credentials, by having deep knowledge, by publishing that knowledge, by having verifiable, trusted authorities on your brand and representing your brand, speaking about you, by having press mentions and media mentions, having subject mastery, by ensuring that you are speaking with authority, by having strong citations around what the source is for your claims. All of this is important. And if you embrace those fundamentals, folks, if you embrace research, creation, distribution, and optimization, if you embrace double EAT, everything else I'm about to share with you, while it is valuable, is kind of secondary. I want some of you just to embrace these fundamentals and run with them. But let's talk about each of these. Let's start with research. If you're not already set up with using a tool like Writesonic, where you're able to actually get insights into your individual category and how brands, your competitors, how your customers, your prospects, etc., are looking for your solution, and whether or not you are visible or you are findable. That's step one. You need to have the infrastructure in place to actually get the data to know whether or not you are being mentioned in the LLMs in the way that you want. Sure, you can go right into it and just like navigate and look at it with your eyes and try to test and see if this is what is influencing your category. That's the nitty gritty way. I think there's so much bias in it. Like when you consider things like memory and your own bias that you probably influence your LLM, I think it's better to use one of these tools, but I think you should start there. And when your boss is like, hey, I'm looking in my LLM and I see that we're not ranking number one, tell them to clear their memory and that it doesn't matter what they see. You need to have a large sample size. What this one individual sees does not matter, right? But I also want you all to remember, as amidst all of the shifts happening, Google still dominates. Like everyone's getting so obsessed with the LLMs and all of these new tools. And I love them. I'm a massive fan of AI, big believer in them. But let's be honest. Google owns discovery. Google owns search, right? Like search is still dominated by Google. The vast majority of the searches that experienced on the internet still happen by Google. So you can say, oh, we're only going to optimize for ChatGPT. We're only going to optimize for Claude, Perplexity, etc. Hashtag mistake. Why? Because Google is the gigantic search discovery platform still today. Google had this announcement where they said, folks, we don't want you to create commodity content. We want you to create non-commodity content. And I had a lot of conversations with CMOs and exec teams where they were saying, Ross, do we need to shift all of our strategy towards non-commodity content? And I gave the most marketing answer ever. It depends. What do I mean by that? It depends because in some niches, in some industries, if you're in a very new niche, commodity content is actually highly valuable because there's no commodity content that exists. If someone is in an industry, in a niche that has been around for the last 2 decades, I would assume there's tons of commodity content that exists. So the training models and the LLMs have a ton of commodity content that it can learn from. But if it doesn't already exist, then there's no infrastructure for it to learn from. That's where, if you are in a more older market, non-commodity content is where you're going to win. And what I encourage you to start to play with. We've started to build out non-commodity content for clients at Foundation, and the results in terms of the citations have been wild. Take first-party data, do surveys, run research, do analysis of different things, and then press publish on that story. The LLMs will eat it up. And it's the long tail. You're not always going after the most highly searched for query. You might be going for a specific use case that you know your ICP and your audience want, and then you create that piece. Here's a little framework that, again, take all the screenshots, steal everything that I'm saying, use it all for yourself. This is the way that we think of marketing, folks. This should be like an investment. So as you're starting to discuss and internally make a decision around non-commodity versus commodity content, run your own internal analysis around whether or not something is worth the investment, right? Because every single day, people are asking LLMs questions, and you should be too. You should be using LLMs to do research for you. You should be using LLMs to help you brainstorm the keywords that you should go after. If you're thinking about going into YouTube, maybe you run a keyword analysis, you use an MCP from one of your favorite SEO and AI optimization tools to get insight. You might then realize, however, that when you go over to YouTube and you start to type in the queries, there's a data gap. And then maybe you look at this and you're like, I noticed that propagating lavender, my keywords tool, is only telling me 390 searches a month, but the videos have over 455,000 views. Maybe that's worth pursuing. Let's pretend that I had a midlife crisis and I said, I'm done this marketing thing. I'm going to start a gardening YouTube channel. If I looked at my keyword tool, it would say 390 searches a month. Ross, don't go after it. But if I use my human eyes and I look at this and I say, these videos have a total of 455,000 views, maybe I should create them because people want them. It's worth pursuing. Do not allow, folks, AI to replace the brain. You still need to be able to think strategically and put together a few things as a human marketer to understand that if your eyes are telling you that people want it, then maybe you should create it. And the data might not be perfect. Once you've embraced the research, you then need to start creating. Let me share with you some data on that. YouTube, absolutely blowing up. If we leaned heavily into this idea of my quarter life cycle, midlife crisis, so to speak. I said quarter life. I'm way past quarter, but midlife crisis. Let's say we leaned into YouTube and you said, all right, let's create a YouTube strategy. It's never been easier to invest in YouTube, folks. One, again, I'm going to analyze this. I'm going to look at this and say, okay, easy basal propagation has over 350,000 views. Let's create a YouTube effort around that. I can now use ChatGPT to go out and create my thumbnails. This wasn't available months ago. This was not available months ago, folks. Now you can ask ChatGPT to create a thumbnail and there it is. And I can say, okay, that's cool, but why in the world am I wearing a Coogee sweater? Put me in something else and then it will do that too. And if I wanted to, I could have the LLM even write a script that I could read from and start to talk about propagating lavender in 2026. And then I could take it a step further and create an actual deepfake in HeyGen where I'm talking about it, right? This is possible today. All of this is feasible. You have at your fingertips, folks, the ability to create best-in-class content. You can use AI. You can use actual people in a studio creating it. There's so much potential. When you look at brands like SEMrush, you should be analyzing, if this is your category you're going into, analyze the content, the best practices that they have. Look at GitHub and their best practices. Take inspiration from brands like HubSpot that are hiring people and are using a creator strategy where they have this smart guy who had a whole video on local SEO. I don't know if you folks follow him. You should. He knows this stuff. It's me. I'm kidding. But you should engage with this type of content and create it and then consider, can we build a network of creators to produce content that actually influences the LLMs? What do I mean by that? So we recently did this study where we found that YouTube is being cited more regularly in AI overviews, in Gemini, and AI mode than ever before. Why? Because Google bought YouTube for $1 billion and it's one of the best business transactions to ever take place. You think Google's going to let YouTube fail? Not a chance. So they're using the transcripts to inform. YouTube also just recently announced Ask YouTube, which is an AI built into YouTube where you can ask questions, it listens to a bunch of YouTube videos, and it gives you a response. Folks, do not sleep on video. I'm saying it here just like I did way back. YouTube will probably show up in every single search experience that you have within LLM that is owned by Google. Gemini is probably going to have a video in it. AI overviews, AI mode, I believe will all have videos in them. But that's not the only channel that matters. I think Reddit matters too. You just seen Sam present, and one of the key stats was about Reddit. Reddit is a gold mine of opportunity. I think all of us need to embrace this idea of finding content that works well on Reddit and then reverse engineering the psychology of why it worked and then applying it to our niche. I seen this post. I saw some folks here from New York, go Knicks. You guys did it. Well done. And I was like, cool, this is a post about pizza. Let's see if I can apply this thinking to my own hometown, Halifax, Nova Scotia. So I rewrote that post for Halifax. It had over 100 upvotes, 40,000 views. Folks, you can reverse engineer what content is being cited on Reddit in the LLMs, recreate it, add value, make it better, and then give it to people. Then you start to think about distribution. You create all of this stuff, but you have to distribute it. When you see data like this, where YouTube mentions, Reddit mentions, Gartner mentions, G2, LinkedIn is all thriving, what does it mean? It means we need to get out of the habit of only focusing on our site and start thinking about distribution on other channels. So what I'm thinking is on YouTube, maybe we should tap into actually bringing on YouTube partners who we could have support the setup of a YouTube engine for us. At Foundation, we're working with partners every day to go out and find creators for our clients who are recording videos that target queries that are associated with the LLMs and the prompts that matter to them. We're actually, this is a clear example of creator programs, right? Or we're going out and reaching out to influencers. You can do this in-house too. There are also signals that I think something is in the water that we all need to acknowledge, which is that short form video is starting to influence LLMs, and it's also starting to show up in the SERP directly. Let's keep going on this. YouTube, Reddit, Gartner, G2. Folks, do not sleep on review sites. If you are considering your budget and you're thinking, oh, the review sites are losing a lot of traffic, I should walk away from them. No, while traffic might be down, it's down across all websites, but you know what's up? Citations. So can you start to show up on various review sites as the top listed product? You can pay to play, or you can just have a great product. I prefer that you have a great product and people review you well, but you can also pay to play. But you should also be thinking holistically around every asset that you produce as an org and as a company. How can you take one podcast and turn it into 100 different assets that you circulate, whether it's through blog posts, through content, through stories, you name it. There's tools like distribution.ai that you can use to help you do this even faster. And then ask yourself, maybe we can even go into forums. Folks, I've cracked forums that are ridiculously difficult, like Reddit, Hacker News, and more. And I can tell you that there is nothing like being distributed into these channels, and there is nothing right now that is driving more visibility in citations than things like Reddit. So when you see Sam talk about a 4.4x jump in Reddit citations after the May model update, we did seen a study the other day, and it was saying the same thing directly in Google. Folks, I've been saying it since 2018. Distribute your content in Reddit. Here, I will say it again. I've been banned from Reddit. I've been banned from Reddit multiple times, folks. You might have too. If you're looking for cheat codes and advice on how to do it, talk to our team. We'd be happy to share more on it. But here's some free advice. Set up a subreddit with excellence. Brands like ClickUp have done this well. Brands like HubSpot have done this well. Twilio have done this well. Learn from some of the greats. The team at Foundation has published a ton of research on how to set up a great subreddit. You can take guidance from brands like Supernote, Sonos, SEMrush, etc. You should be setting up user accounts that can manage the conversation, but a subreddit where you can facilitate and create a sense of community. Again, when you see data like this, folks, the only thing that I ask is that you embrace a simple philosophy, which is to create ridiculously valuable content, create ridiculously valuable products, and try to drive distribution. And then, amidst all of this, you're probably thinking, is he saying that SEO is dead? No. You still have to optimize. You still need to care about your site. We're not saying forget your site. We're saying you have to optimize it with this in mind: experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Keep writing blog content. Keep producing landing pages, but make sure that when you are doing it, that you're thinking about publishing case studies. You're thinking about doing the hard things. Someone asked in the chat, Ross, what's non-commodity versus commodity content? Commodity content is content that an AI can answer, where I'm saying, what is what is digital marketing? That's commodity content. But non-commodity content is, we interviewed 500 digital marketers to better understand what their biggest pain point is in June 2026. And here's what we found. That's non-commodity because no one else has that. That's unique. It has a point of view, and it's a first-party data-driven asset. This is what you want to optimize your site for: rich insights, rich case studies, and have author pages so people know who you are. One of the best examples that I've seen on the web doing this is brands like NerdWallet. Folks, Sam said it earlier. You have to stop treating one engine as AI visibility. You need to stop counting citations as wins. They are a part of the equation, but they're not the holy vow of like, hey, we've done it. This is it. Like, no. It's good. Don't get us wrong, but it's not the only thing that matters. Stop pouring everything into your own site. You have to diversify, right? Off site as well. And you have to stop trying to always be the best. I would challenge this one a little bit and say you should strive to have the best product. You should strive to be the best person serving your customers. You should strive to have the best story, and you should strive to be the best marketer that you can be. And if you embrace these fundamentals of research, create, distribute, and optimize, I have a feeling that we'll finally put marketing back into content marketing, and we all will be better off for it. Thank you all for listening. I'm Ross Simmonds. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Super excited to have this fireside chat with Dozie and Writesonic. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. A lot of really good insights. Ross, I'm sure people learned a lot of great things. We'll hand it over to Dozie now. I know we have a couple of questions in chat and the Q&A section, but Dozie will let you take it up from here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, who else feels like when you go after Ross, like you're trying to full up with someone who's got the ton of energy, and you're like, you know what? I need to hype myself up. I need to hype myself up. Because I was just like, okay, like, how am I going to start this? Like, where am I going to kick off with this conversation right now? Because like what Ross just did, like, how do I keep that going? But yeah, I mean, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am the B2B Creative Director at Foundation Marketing. I spend most of my time thinking about creative strategy and content and marketing and all that stuff. And I think we'll kick this off with, by the way, Tanya will help us to kind of pull questions from the Q&A over. So please just kind of let me know when we have a question we have to answer. But I think where I want to kick this off with is something both of you talked about, which is how we're trying to bring marketing back to content marketing. And I remember seeing something somewhere where someone said, this is the summer of AI search. Like literally is like this summer, we're all talking about AI search and how it's changing. I think the first thing I want to kind of kick off with is when you both say that, what are we saying? Because before we used to build teams around, oh, you're in Reddit, and oh, you're in SEO, and oh, you handle landing pages and CRO. But if we look at what you're talking about, Ross, literally is we now need to build teams who say, no, we're a marketing team and we have different channels, but I feel like that thing is kind of missing in B2B. And so where does someone even start rethinking that approach from a structure point of view? Because I feel like once you figure out your team structure, then you can probably start saying, how do we even tackle these channels?
Sam, do you want to take it first?
I can take a dig at it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think what we have been seeing, like you yourself mentioned, Dozie, there used to be multiple teams in most companies that were working in silos or isolation. So it's like a digital PR team, and then there's like a SEO team, content team, and all that, right? So a lot of different teams working in silos where they don't talk to each other and they don't take the best things out of each other. So if, let's say, content team wrote a really good set of blogs that are doing really well organically, paid team is not leveraging it to promote it, boost it, all those kinds of things, right? So that's, I think, what is really good with the AI search, because that is sort of breaking down those silos where all of these teams now need to come together. You need help from your community person to manage Reddit and to go and post comments there or start a community there. At the same time, you also need to do your own on-page content, whether it's landing pages, as Ross was saying, or blogs, non-commodity content, of course, all those kinds of things. And then, of course, there's social media as well. YouTube, you need to produce video content. LinkedIn is, I think, getting picked up quite a bit for B2B, as we were talking about. So all of these teams need to come together, and it becomes like a very holistic strategy where every single marketing team comes together to form like a let's say not a global, but like an overall strategy that would work across the brand. So I think that is what is really changing, which is also good because now those isolated teams can talk to each other and they can all come together, and the impact would be directly visible as part of your visibility as well. I think that would be my ad, but would love to hear what Ross has to say.
Yeah, Sam, I'm with you 100%. I think it's going from silos to a holistic channel. And Mary mentioned it in the comments, like right on time. It's breaking the silos, right? Like you need to have a holistic approach where organizations align around the goal. And when you do that, everything gets better because brands at the table, socials at the table, search is at the table, paid is at the table, everyone's at the table, and everyone has the ownership of certain things. But when everyone's together and united around a single goal, which is to be X within the platforms, then you have an opportunity to move different levers a little bit better. Because the worst thing that could happen is that your YouTube team is just operating in this steady state of brand-oriented ads that they're uploading, and they might be getting demand gen teams sending them a bunch of webinars that they're creating, but none of it is optimized for citations. And the title is all the same, and it just changes episode 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Come on. Like that's trash. What we actually need to do is have that team talk to SEO so SEO can ensure that every single video is optimized with the right keywords, aligned with intent, the descriptions are optimized, the tags are correct. They then are connected to social and brand to make sure those thumbnails are on point, capturing the hook, all of those things. So long story, a little bit longer. I agree with Sam.
Totally. I mean, building on that actually is because I feel like if you talk to every marketer right now who's probably listening to you but talk, there's, oh, we agree with that. The question is, how do I help my team see that? And I want to go back to the stats. I think we had a report that went out a month ago, which is called the Hidden Selection Report, where we kind of found out that 90% of citations happened offsite. Now Sam is actually saying this is 96%. And I want us to kind of spend some time on that literally, because I feel like that is one way for people to go back to their business and say, hey, look, we need to do this because if all we have to talking about is what we're doing on the blog side, then we're failing already. So can we spend some time on that, basically talking about that data point, how can teams present that, why it's important, and what you all are seeing? Because I feel like we just went through it so fast, and no one's like, that is a very important number. Everything's happening offsite, not on your side.
Yeah, I think
Ross, go first.
Yeah, I think it's more important now than ever to bring data to the conversation. A lot of people are asking the question, like, how do I get buy-in? How do I get the team to buy into this? How do I get the exec team to buy into this? You have to bring data to the conversation, folks. And the data shouldn't end with citations. It shouldn't end with all of these numbers. I think it starts there, but you also have to connect it to the bottom line. Show how it influences pipeline. Show how it impacts revenue. Show how it could be negatively impacting your sales pipeline, your sales revenue, all of those things. And you can do that by saying, other brands are showing up more regularly. What's the average value of these keywords? If you're talking about Google, you can actually get the cost per click estimates, multiply that by the search volume, take an assumption that each LLM has a certain percentage of that search volume now, do the math, and you should be able to formulate a business case around why this matters to the dollar level. And I think marketers are afraid to talk about dollars because a lot of us got into marketing, think we didn't have to do math, but like we need to get close to the numbers, especially around the dollars.
Yeah, 100%. I think what Ross mentioned, especially using that paid ad data and then doing a back calculation based on that, I think that is really important. Because also one quick thing to add there, I think when we talk to a lot of our customers as well, most of them, as you're saying, is they're focusing on on-page content. So they're focusing on their blogs. They're churning out a lot of blog and landing page content. Even we were doing this until a few months back. And then once you dig into the data and you see, okay, why are the competitors actually outranking you or having a better visibility than you in certain areas, that data will actually show you that, okay, they are the ones who are getting mentioned on Reddit or on YouTube, LinkedIn, all these places, which is where you are lagging behind, because on page you might be similar, but they might be doing a much better job on the off page side. One other thing I think we have seen is some, companies that do much better, not better, but like more PR, let's say, where naturally due to funding or due to whatever reason they get a lot of PR, they usually end up getting a lot more off pitch due to, of course, digital PR, backlinks, all those kinds of things. So that really also helps them outrank some of the other competitors as well, who might not have that much digital PR as well. But yeah, that's the thing. But data and the back calculation that Ross mentioned, I think both of those are really important.
Yeah, I see that Ross is typing some of the answers to in the Q&A. Thanks so much for that, Ross, because that also helps us, gives us more time. Because I think I have a lot of really interesting questions I really want to get to. Um, I think the next one I have, because now that we've talked about how to present your business case, but again, is like, what's the most of a hype thing in AI visibility right now? Because again, it's also so easy to say, yeah, I want to present this, and then you go out there and you present something that is just hype, because with every new thing, there's a ton of, oh, we should do it this way. Oh, this is what's working. And then for the lack of a better example, forgive me, everyone, the LinkedIn bros will join on it and then start to talk about all the shortcuts and all the hacks and all the stuff. And then folks get lost, and then the industry suffers overall because people go out and present stuff that isn't exactly the thing that works, and their business head says, hey, no, someone has stuff that isn't working. So what one are the most overhyped things that we think or you think you're seeing right now across the industry? Sam, you go. Sam, I want Sam to
I'll
go.
think about it. I'll let Ross go. Yeah,
Okay,
if
Ross, go
Ross,
ahead.
you have already thought about it.
Yeah, I think the most overhyped thing right now, it's a tough one because I don't think anyone is actually talking about the right things. So I think it's underhyped. Everything is underestimated. I think YouTube is the most underestimated channel right now. I don't know what's overhyped because I think everything is starting to get diluted and kind of put in the same category, which I think is most accurately incorrect. I think you can't put Quora and YouTube in the same conversation. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think you can put Medium and YouTube in the same conversation. I don't think it makes sense. So I think everything is kind of messy and we're figuring it all out. But I don't think YouTube is close to getting the amount of attention that it deserves when it comes to these conversations. I think it's way underestimated by people and brands and businesses right now.
Makes sense. I think from my side, what I am seeing is there are a couple of these different technical things that people are coming up with. One, I think there's a lot of open conversation around llms.txt file. That is something, of course, Google is denying that they don't use it. It's used for agents. But at the same time, I think a lot of companies, especially a lot of startups, are over optimizing for that. Second thing also is a very interesting one I've seen quite a few recent websites doing. They have like a human readable version, and then they have a toggle which makes it like machine readable version, and it's all through a JavaScript toggle itself. So it's literally
Right.
like, the model can't even read it because it's literally a JavaScript toggle there, right? But those kinds of weird experiments, I think people are trying to figure out if there's a way to hack around or inject some, prompts or some data into these LLMs. That is something I think should be avoided. And to also what Ross mentioned earlier, some of the SEO fundamentals still remain consistent, like EEAT. That is super important. That is what also I think non-commodity content is kind of like a glorified version of that only. If you have
Yeah,
those
it's
things
true.
in place, right, that's going to work for you both for Google and then for these AI models as well.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah, because why I asked that question was I think it all goes back to what Ross said earlier on, which is we need to put the marketing back in content marketing in all of this. Because when you talk about those experiments people are doing, is because we kind of think that we can somehow run all those shortcut hacks and get the results. But the real truth is that you still need to speak to humans. And then the models will be like, oh, yeah, the humans trust this. So I'm going to surface it to more humans, basically,
Right.
So that I feel like that's the thing for me. There was something that I found really interesting, which was I made a note about it, which was about that thing where you, Sam, said you win by being talked about somewhere else. And then Ross shared this beautiful example of the Halifax thing. And I feel like there are a ton of people who go out there and try that. You know, I think for me, I have two questions. One is, what makes a post like that land versus being ignored? Just one. Two is, how do you make sure you do it differently so that we don't just get 500 pieces of the same thing go out there, and then it just kind of, there was that thing called the tragedy of the commons, where basically it's everyone is doing it and it doesn't work anymore. I think that's one thing that I'm really hoping that people who live here walk away with. Hey, if I want to do this, I have to put my spin on it, not just going to just go copy what I saw on these slides and then it doesn't work. And I go like, oh, Ross talked about it and I didn't work, or that sort of thing. Yeah. Ross, you want to go first?
Sure, I can. I think the key is to reverse engineer what success looks like, and then to hyper tailor it to your experience, your expertise, and your niche in your category. When I took that New York pizza piece, I didn't just copy and paste it and then rewrite it. I went to some of these pizza shops and I knew that Ronaldo's has some of the best pizza in Halifax. So I was like, I'm going to put Ronaldo's #1. And I wrote it in a way that was rooted in my actual true experience. I just knew it was going to resonate because the story resonated in New York. Let me give you an example. So if I was trying to do this as a marketer, I'd go to the subreddit R Marketing, sort the content by top posts. I'm going to look at all time and I'm going to look for a trend. I might notice a trend that in our marketing, the most frequently upvoted piece, most frequently commented on piece, are stories of freelancers who might escape their 9 to 5. So I'm going to get an insight that this community wants to hear stories of people going from in-house to freelance. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tell my story about how I did it when I was 23 years old. So that's my story, personal. No one else can steal that from me. Your story might be completely different, right? So everyone needs to learn what people want and give it to them, but use their own experience, their own unique point of view.
No, I think the same thing here. I think that research part also, like Ross, you talked about, that is super important. So of course, with EE80, one of the main things is you're adding your own expertise, your own experience from your past work or what you've been doing. But at the same time, I'm a Claude Power user. So if you use Claude, like I use Claude Code, but same thing with Claude Cowork and those things as well. So like you mentioned, I think Reddit, G2, all of these other forums, maybe even YouTube comments, if you're able to scrape that for whatever topic you're trying to write about, learn what are the pain points or what are the things that people are asking for, which has not been covered by others in that space, right? So whoever is ranking the SERP results, what is showing up in AI already, and then sort of reverse engineering, what are the gaps, what are the questions or the topics that people are still looking for an answer to that has not been answered, and then basically you answer it from your own expertise, your own point of view. So both of those research to identify pain points and then your own experience, if you combine both of those together, that is where you'll get like a really unique piece, which it does not exist in the market. It's again non-commodity and it passes all of these checks as well.
Love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great questions in the Q&A. So I'm just going to ask you one more question, and I'll just kind of try and treat the Q&A. And if we have more time, we'll come back to the questions. Because honestly, folks, I mean, I'm learning too. So forgive me if I'm holding the mic and asking my own questions over your questions. Forgive me, guys. I think the one thing for me is the slide about taking the competitor's seat. I've been thinking about that, and I'm just wondering, and this is Ross, you can take this first for me, which is, like, does this change how you run a distribution plan? Like, do you reverse engineer from, like, say you pick your rival and you say, hey, where are they showing up? And I reverse engineer back from them, like how to take over their seat? Or do I just run my plan based off what fits my own plan? And then that way I kick them off that seat. Because it's almost like a musical chairs kind of thing right now with the AI visibility and the LLMs. You, Ross,
Me? You want me to take that one?
Yeah, I want you to take that first, because I feel like
I think
your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think that is the play. I like where you're going with it. I think if you can replace the I think if you can create assets that ultimately replace the competitors, that's a good thing. I think that's what we're all in the game of business to kind of win. So I think it's a part of the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Sam?
there's not really. I think one thing is that, of course, keeping an eye out on your competitors, what they are doing, identifying the gaps, and using that as part of your marketing strategy or your AI strategy. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say that any brand needs to be too fixated on what competitors are doing exactly, right? So that's basically you keep doing your own strategy. Once you are in a place where you are in a similar benchmark or at a similar level as competitors, then you see, okay, what can I do further to now beat the competitors and make sure I'm kicking out my competitors out of the conversation every single time, but wouldn't focus all the time and energy on just the competitors. Of course, you need to first
Mhm.
be part of that conversation, and then once you're
Yeah.
part of the conversation, how do I stay there and ensure my competitors stay out? So that's the second level, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a great question here that kind of speaks to that in a way, which is it says, I think it's from Neha Singh. Sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. It says, does AI search accurately understand emerging brands, or does historical authority still play a role? And if so, why? Who wants to
I
take that first?
think the LLM has an ability to realize and understand from the training data how long or young a business is. If a business has a limited footprint on the training data, it's fair to say that it's emerging. If it has a press release that says 2015, 2005, 1996, then it's probably old. So I think it's all in the training data at large. And the categories kind of speak for themselves. If you're in crypto, you're emerging. If you're in stones, you're old. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then,
it's, sorry,
sorry,
just to
go
add
ahead.
to that, I think it's something that we have been facing with our brand as well, where if let's say you're part of the training data for any of these LLMs, it can be good and bad, both of those things. So of course, one is that you would have some pre-existing authority. So let's say if you are an already existing brand, you might have an authority, but at the same time, let's say if you update your positioning or your messaging at some point, you'll need to try really hard to get the LLMs to make sure they pull the right sources and they're talking about the new thing. So, for example, for us, we initially started with an AI content creation focus. So, we were an AI content platform. But last 1.5 years, our focus has been on AI search and agentic AI and all that. But if you go to ChatGPT and it does not use web search, it would just say Writesonic is an AI content platform. So the good is that, okay, the model knows about your brand if you're an existing brand, but at the same time, if you're an emerging brand, you're starting from a blank slate. So if you can do the right things, you're focusing on Reddit, you're focusing on all these channels that Ross talked about, doing video and YouTube content, there's a much higher likelihood that you can beat the existing bigger brands on certain areas where they might not have a lot of authority.
Yeah. I think we are like tight on time right now, so we kind of have to wrap this up, folks.
Yeah.
I'm going to hand over to Sam to round up. But what I would say is, if you still have more questions, please do send them in. We'll work with the Writesonic and Foundation. We'll take all the questions and turn that into like a full FAQ piece on what's still working and what doesn't work. And we can just answer all that and you can check it out once it goes live. But yeah, Sam, over to you.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. First of all, for everyone for joining in, and for those of you who stayed towards the end, I think a lot of really good insights from Ross, a lot of very interesting questions from Dozie. So, really interesting conversation, I think, in the fireside chat part as well. But yeah, thanks a lot for joining in.